Good evening. I'm excited to talk today about use of distractions during meal times and how to help children outgrow the use of these distractions. So when I say distractions, it could be anything from gadgets like iPad, a phone, tablet, use of television, reading a book, playing with toys, having to walk around while feeding the child. All of these are distractions that either parents use to help the child to eat better, or a grown-up child could use to help him complete a meal. So these are some of the distractions that we commonly see in children and parents almost in every other home. But these distractions do have a significant impact on the child. So when a child uses distractions to complete a meal, he's setting himself on the autopilot mode. When I say autopilot mode, what I mean here is the child uses a gadget or a book. Mostly it's a cell phone or a tab or an iPad. So the child uses this gadget like something to distract himself with so that he can comfortably complete a meal. So there's this distraction in front of him. The food goes into the mouth and he just gulps it down. The problem with this kind of using distraction or setting into the autopilot mode where the food just goes in and the child swallows it is the child would continue to follow a primitive oral motor pattern to eat food. A primitive oral motor pattern could mean the child just munches on food rather than using a complex rotary chew to chew on the food, masticate it, make a bolus out of it, and then swallow. So these are some of the challenges that you would see when the child switches on into an autopilot mode. And these, I would say, are short-term fixes. And these short-term fixes can have long-term impact on the children. Now, three major problems that comes with distractions because of the autopilot mode and because of the primitive oral motor patterns are: number one, the child sets brain pathways to eat with distractions. Number two, child does not know how to eat without distractions. 3, the parent is not able to teach the child to eat the food, but the parent herself or himself is distracted along with the child. So these are the three major problems you will see as a result of using distractions while eating. Now, when I have said about use of distractions, what are some of the problems you will face with using distractions, I would like to comment on how to help children outgrow these or how to wean the child off from these distractions. The first and the foremost thing that you need to implement is prevention. Like we always say, prevention is better than cure. If a child is not familiar to using distractions to eat, that is great. You may have a neighbor or a friend who would encourage you to use distractions so that your child can eat better, but please do not follow that advice. It's a myth around feeding problems. So please do not follow that. Prevention is better than cure. Don't give any distractions while eating. Rather, help your child to continue exploring the food. So that is if you've not used distractions. If your child is already using distractions, and you want to help your child, first of all, you must understand using distractions is more like using crutches to walk. When we help a person get off the crutches, we don't, prevent him or stop him from using the crutches just overnight. The person uses the crutches which have 4 legs to it and gradually progresses to a single stick crutch, and then we wean off the person from the crutches. And while we are weaning off the crutches, there is a process involved. Probably we are doing some physiotherapy and exercises before we wean off the crutch completely, right? Similarly, when it comes to feeding practices and use of distractions, the distraction in itself is more like a crutch, as I mentioned. We have to gradually wean off and not abruptly stop the child from using distractions. If you are a therapist, I encourage you to help the family gradually wean off in the step-by-step method I'm going to share with you now. And if you're a parent, Do it very gradually. Do not be an overachiever when it comes to feeding. Do it one step at a time. So here's what you need to do. Firstly, start introducing the child's favorite meal once a week without distractions. It could be a day that's most convenient for you. Depending on a weekday or a weekend, you can choose what suits you best and go with just one meal a week. Once you have achieved one meal a week consistently without distractions, at least 4 times, that is for the entire month, then you're ready to add on more meals without distractions. Now, when you pick this one meal a week, ensure you pick the child's favorite meal. It could even be junk, because the goal here is not healthy food, but the goal here is to get off that distraction. So don't try to do 2 to 3 things together at the same time. It doesn't really help. So go with just one goal at a time, which is to get off the distraction, one meal a week. Follow this up the next month with 2 meals or 1 meal a day. When you are taking this decision, involve your child and let him or her know that you're going to help him wean off that distraction. And when you tell the child you're going to help him wean off, tell the child also the benefits of weaning off from the distraction. That is very critical in decision making together as a family. So you're going to move on to once a day, and then twice a day, thrice a day, and all meals of the day. The child will be able to eat without distractions. It was so easy for me to complete this within a minute, but trust me, it's going to take time for you. Like I said, the first attempt at the first step itself is going to take you a month to complete one meal a week 4 times. So it is going to take time. Be patient. It's at least going to take you anywhere about 100 days to reach to this point, at least. So be patient, do it gradually. Remember the illustration of crutches I told you. They're going to use 4-legged crutches to a walking stick, and then gradually you wean off. Similarly with food, using gadgets while eating, gradually wean off the child. So once you have decided to help the child wean off from the distractions they are using, you must be careful to sit with them when they are having their meal. Firstly, attempt to have at least one family meal a day together, because in that way you're going to teach your child what are some of the rules that you follow during a meal time, or how you sit together, or how you don't use distractions during a meal time, which means during your family meal you will not use distractions. Secondly, help the child to set the table and clear off the table. Let me tell you why it's so important. When the child is going to help you set the table, let me explain that to you in detail. When the child is going to help you set the table, maybe he was using a distraction just before coming to the table. Could be that the child was playing, or child was watching something on the television. When you ask the child to help setting the table, the child is going to stop playing with that gadget or the toy, and he's going to pick up utensils from the kitchen and walk to the table. When the child is picking up utensils with curry or rice or spoons and plate, that has a certain weight to it, right? The child moving to the kitchen, getting it on the table, holding something heavy is going to give him all the vestibular, proprioceptive and sensory input, which are essential for calming. So when the child is sitting at the table, one, he's going to be able to transition from activity 1 to mealtime without distractions, and he's already going to stay a lot calmer, and it's going to help him complete a meal without distractions. So for these reasons, you're going to help the child set the table and clear the table. Thirdly, I would say that you talk pleasant matters at the meal table. This is the last one for the day. Do not talk about food, because the child probably is not familiar to exploring different tastes and textures and smell of the food. So he's just working on it, and if you may ask, did you like the food? How did it go? I'm sure this is your favorite. He might just say, no, it's not my favorite, I don't like it, and that's going to be a negative impact on feeding. So do not talk about food, but talk about pleasant matters. Now, I'm not encouraging that the child can use talking as a distractions. Definitely not. But what I encourage here is you sit together as a family, talk about pleasant matters, take turns so the child listens to you, and the child also has the food before him and has your support in helping him overcome this distraction while eating. So this is what I wanted to share with you today. And in the midweek of June, we are having the Oral Sensory Motor Intervention for Pediatric Feeding Difficulties course offered. So the link of it is there in the description box. Please click the link and enroll and register for it. So that's it for today. I hope the strategies and the tips I shared with you to help children outgrow distractions during meal times has helped you. Let us know how did it go. And if your child continues to have problems to eat without distractions, maybe you feel that your child is very hyperactive or the child is having difficulty sitting and staying in place, please connect with us for an assessment with occupational therapist and speech therapist. Let's identify what the core problems are and help you better.